This ends up saving us about $436 a year. Making your own Greek yogurt at home is actually super simple and will save you a lot of money, especially if you're looking for a full-fat, grass-fed option, which can be pretty hard to find in a grocery store. This is my final product, which I'm very proud of. And all you need to get started is a crock pot or a slow cooker, a half gallon of grass-fed full-fat milk, and about a half a cup of Greek yogurt from either a previous batch or just store-bought. So the whole process is actually really easy to make Greek yogurt. There's about 5 minutes of actual active time, but because fermentation takes about 12 to 18 hours, depending on how long you want to ferment it for, it will take about a day and a half to actually make the Greek yogurt. So I would recommend starting this about 5 to 6 hours before your usual bedtime. That way you don't have to get up in like the middle of the night to finish your Greek yogurt. So the first step is really easy for making Greek yogurt. You just take the lid off of your crock pot and make sure that your crock pot is not turned on yet, and then you just pour in the milk. Only with grass-fed, you get a really important nutrient called vitamin K2. Vitamin K2 is needed to help transport calcium out of the arteries and into the bones. So it's really important for heart health and for bone health. And you only get that with grass-fed. You do not get it with grain-fed. I also like to use a full fat option, so you actually get those satiety hormones, CCK, stimulated. So especially if you're looking to achieve a weight loss goal, it's really important to be getting this in. Now that it's poured in, we're just going to plug this in, cover, and turn to low, and that's it. From here, I'm just gonna set a timer for 2.5 hours, so we're letting the milk heat up to a good temperature where it can actually ferment. Okay, so now it's been 2.5 hours, so I'm going to just turn this off and just unplug it so I don't accidentally turn it back on. And now we just wait 3 more hours. This step is just to make sure that the milk cools down enough so that it doesn't scald the bacteria and stop it from fermenting. So one tip here that I learned the hard way is that once you have this step for the next 3 hours, I would recommend then pulling out the yogurt so it can get to room temperature. Because if you don't let it get to room temperature and you put in cold yogurt into the milk for the next step, that can too quickly cool the milk and really throw off the fermentation. For me, this resulted in really thin yogurt that hadn't really fermented. And especially if you're lactose sensitive, you really want to take advantage of full fermentation. So I like to pull out the half cup worth of yogurt to then inoculate this milk. And if this is your first batch and you don't have the homemade yogurt yet, you can just use store-bought and that's totally fine. Just make sure that it does have the active live cultures in it, otherwise it won't work. So to help avoid ants getting in, I just put the yogurt in a bowl that has a little bit of water in it. That way the ants can't then get to the yogurt. So I'll sit that out at room temperature while the crock pot is completely turned off for the next 3 hours. Okay, so the milk has been sitting here for the past 3 hours cooling. Now it's time to add in our Greek yogurt to actually add in the bacteria that will then ferment the yogurt, or I guess milk, and then make it into yogurt. I have my room temperature Greek yogurt and I'm just going to add this in. So this is a half cup of the Greek yogurt from a previous batch, but you can also use just any store-bought live culture Greek yogurt. This is stir, make sure the bacteria gets exposed to all of the milk. So currently it's still just milk, and I'm going to put this back on. Then I'm going to cover it with a towel. So this just helps to keep the temperature constant. Already the crock pot will do that, but this is just to help it a bit more to keep that temperature really constant so we can get the fermentation. So now the real fermentation's happening. In order to make sure that this is low lactose so that you can get the carbohydrate count down and you can make sure that it's not going to cause GI issues, especially if you're more lactose sensitive, I'm going to be fermenting this for about 18 hours. You can do it for 9 technically, but it's pretty thin still and it's still going to be pretty high in lactose. So I like to do it for about 18 hours, but find that range that you like. The longer fermentation will have the lower lactose, but it will also be a little bit more sour and have more of that like traditional Greek yogurt flavor. So I'm gonna let this sit for 18 hours and then tomorrow it will be yogurt, but then we still need to strain it. Okay, so it's the next morning. Literally just got out of bed. It's been about 16, 17-ish hours since this has been fermenting, and you can see that it has completely transformed. Now it's yogurt, but what we're going to do is make it into Greek yogurt now. And the main difference between yogurt and Greek yogurt is that you strained out a lot of the excess lactose and water. So it helps to remove even more of the lactose, and it helps make it more concentrated in protein. So if you're using yogurt as a protein source, then this makes it a lot easier to make sure you're getting enough protein. So I actually got a Greek yogurt strainer. It really has made my life a lot lot easier. I've seen some people use like a bunch of cheesecloths or some paper towels or even some coffee filters, but it just seemed really messy, and this was a lot easier, and it was like $20. Honestly, really worth the investment. I'll put the one that I have linked down in the description below so you guys can check that out, but feel free to use like coffee filters lined in some type of mesh lining. So all it is, a little strainer and something to catch it. So you can actually already see that some of the whey water is starting to come out. This process is going to be a bit slow. So what you do is you cover it and then you put it in the fridge. Depending on how thick and fermented your yogurt already turned out, this could be anywhere between like 6 or 8 hours or 18 hours. Really just check on it to see how thick you like it. I'm going to cover this. So I'm just going to put this straight in the fridge so it'll stop the fermentation. It's been almost exactly 8 hours since I first put this in. So you can see that there's a lot of whey water left over. So I actually recently learned that you can use this leftover whey water portion where it's just like some of the lactose and a little bit of whey that seeps through. You can actually save this and make ricotta cheese. I currently have a bunch of these little guys of whey water freezing in my freezer right now because I am going to test that out eventually. But I've also just put the whey water on top of some of Sophie, my dog's food. She loves it. She goes crazy over it. But if you don't have a dog and if you don't want to experiment making homemade ricotta, then you can just toss this portion. So now we have the actual Greek yogurt. So you can see that it's much more thick now than it was when I first made it this morning. Now it's well and truly Greek yogurt. Now, since this is a fermented food product, it should last a couple of weeks in the fridge, but I personally run through it in like a couple of days. So if you have a bigger crock pot, you could even double the recipe and make more, especially if you have more people in your household that eats Greek yogurt. For myself personally, and I use Greek yogurt every single day, and my fiance uses it as well, this ends up saving us about $436 a year. Each of the grass-fed, full-fat, organic Greek yogurt containers can be at like $8 or $8.50 for about a 32-ounce serving. So you save quite a bit. Now I use Greek yogurt in pretty much all of my smoothie recipes to get a high quality source of protein. So if you want to check out one of my smoothie recipes where I use Greek yogurt, you can check out this video next. Also, if you're new to my channel and you love this science-backed information, make sure you subscribe right here. Come out with new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. All right guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.